virtual life, which is really the one life that we all are. I am Chris Glick. I'm a spiritual practitioner here at Ahiah, and I'm going to lead you in a meditation. To begin, wherever you are, just settle, be, allow, gently know the breath that is just everywhere present. As you breathe in, you feel that breath. As you breathe, you feel that breath going throughout your entire being. Be aware of that. That is the breath. That is life. Ever circling in and out. Breathing that breath. Allowing that breath. Gently feeling that breath in your entire being, filling all the cells. As you feel this breath going through you today, allow that breath to find its own way. As you allow that breath to find its own way, it goes to areas in your being, in your body, that seem to be really liking that breath when they feel that. And they open, each cell opens its being to that breath. Some of those cells may really welcome this breath. They may be experiencing some redness, which maybe we call inflammation, or they may be experiencing some unease, which we might call anxiety, those kind of things. But you know, those things are there. Allow that breath to go to those things. Just allow it. As you breathe, and you allow that breath to go to all those places that just may be wanting some attention today. And you just breathe into the silence of what is that breath bringing right now. It's bringing some love. As you feel that love, as you feel that feeling of goodness, that feeling of warmth, I invite you to take your hand, either one, and place it gently around your energy center, which is right here around your chest, your heart. This area, just allow that hand to be there. Allow the feeling of heat to connect that hand energy with that heart energy. It may have a glow to it, like the yellow in a fire, deep yet full, fulfilling, warm, healing. Just keep that hand there, connecting with the heart. In this moment, allow all to flow. Breath, tears, laughter, love, unbridled, healing, open, cleansing. In this space now, this heart space, is like a glowing ember, cool, yet hot with life, healing, cleansing. Opening, allowing, transforming, creating. Feel that powerful yet gentle, just waiting. Now direct that energy, that ball, through your entire being, finding those places, allowing that energy to go there, warm that area up. Kidneys, liver, reproductive area, thighs, knees, calves, ankles, feet, toes, up through the shoulders, through the arms, through the fingers, through the neck, into that fortress, that center that receives and sends, as it receives from the heart that ember, that energy, that whole being now is lit up. Every cell has that energy of that heat that is cool yet hot, healing, filling your soul. As you now relax where you are deep inside, that place where you always are, as you are aware, as you allow gentle spirit centered, I now breathe and I release. I release all that has been and I say thank you. Namaste. God bless you. We will start our service very soon. Thank you. God bless you.
Well, God morning, Ahiah. Yes, yes, yes. You have just been titillated by our beloved California, USA, right in the heart of the theater district. And we are live streaming and live service because we have beautiful souls in the audience here celebrating God's party with us. And today is also the first day of the 25th annual Season for Nonviolence. Most auspicious occasion, so we're grateful that you've tuned in and that you're present with us. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Season of Nonviolence in just a moment, but first I want to just introduce some of the folks who make this service possible, give them our heartfelt gratitude, starting with our beloved Harris, our technical director. He slices, he dices, he does it all. He's back there driving the ship for us. I'd like to give great gratitude to our beloved Gloria in the sound booth behind the curtain there, turning the knobs, making sure that we are all heard. And those who work behind the scenes, Brother Troy and Milton, for making sure the signs are out there. There's a big sign in front of our center that says, you can heal yourself here. We want to acknowledge him. And for the breakfast, we always have breakfast snacks, hint, hint. So let's give them some love. Yes, and our practitioners, especially our practitioner of the day, Jackie Owens. I like to call her Jackie O. It's want to give gratitude to her for her loving consciousness and her prayer support, for opening us up in prayer this morning. Thank you, Jackie. Indeed, indeed. And so we're about to get God's party started, but first, very important announcement and acknowledgement about the Season for Nonviolence. This is the 25th year of this 64-day observance of the peacemakers that we know as Mohandas Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Very important, because today we're going to hear a message from the voice of Dr. King. Gerald Rivers is here paying his annual visit to us. We want to give him some love. Let's acknowledge him. And his talk today will be Living the Beloved Community, which of course is very pertinent to us because we've been involved in a beloved community experience every month as a community for over a year now. And tomorrow night we are going to come back with installment number 14 or 15, I believe it is. So I'll give you a little bit more information about that. But the Season for Nonviolence is a 64-day observance of the principles of peace, of nonviolence. And Ahiah has been participating since we were the Pasadena Church of Religious Science 20 years ago. It was the year before I became a practitioner that we first started observing the Season for Nonviolence here. And so not only do we have activities, movies for Peace Night, we do that on the last Friday of the month. We started off this past Friday with Radical Healing, a great new film series led by Deepak Chopra. And we will be doing that every last Friday throughout the season. So be sure to tune in with us. And also, every day is observing a principle and a practice of nonviolence. And so today, the first day of the 25th annual Season for Nonviolence, the theme or principle is courage. And there's a quotation, an affirmation, and a practice. The quotation is by Ambrose Redmoon. It says that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. Yes, I love that. The affirmation, today I will have the courage. Well, if I could go back to it, let's see. The miracle of modern technology is taking place right now, family. Just a moment. We'll get this fixed. There we go. Today, I will have the courage to live in accordance with my values, to speak from my heart, to treat people with compassion and kindness, to non-violently take a stand for what is just. Powerful affirmation. And the practice, light a candle today to symbolize your commitment to accept the courage to practice 64 ways of living nonviolently. I love it. I love it. And so today we will hear a little bit more about Dr. King's words on this concept, I'm certain. But first, let's get God's party started with a beautiful video meditation. Our beloved Gabriel puts these together with love and just a great sense of creativity. Let's take a look at this before we bring forward our practitioner of the day.
You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged. Oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside you makes you feel so small. But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, yeah, like a rainbow. Show me a smile then, don't be unhappy. Can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy, you've taken all you can bear. You call me up, 'cause you know I'll be there. And I see your true colors, they're shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, yeah, like a rainbow. If this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, you call me up, 'cause you know I'll be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true beautiful, yeah, like a rainbow.
Beautiful. Thank you, Gabriel, for your loving time and attention in putting that together for us. I also neglected to mention to you that our musical inspiration today is Butch Dubarri. So he is here. He's right there, and he'll be here in just a moment after our loving practitioner of the day, Jackie O, comes forward to lead us in an invocation and an inspirational reading. So let's give Jackie O some love.
Good morning. My name is Jacqueline Owens, and I'm very privileged to be one of the practitioners here at Ahiah Center for Spiritual Living. This morning, I read to you from 365 Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, and it is called, I Surrender All Fear and Doubt. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Luke 12, chapter 32nd verse. We should always keep in mind that we are the beneficiaries of life. We do not put the chicken in the egg, nor the oak in the acorn. Rather, we take them out. We did not create the divine presence nor the law of good. We commune with this presence and use this law. Therefore, Jesus said that it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It is our business to receive it. And in doing this, we follow the same method that any scientist would follow. For the scientist knows that he did not create the laws that he uses or the principles that he employs. It is my Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom. Today I accept this kingdom, and I accept it in its fullness. Because of it, the day contains joy and happiness and is filled with peace. Running through it all is the silent power of spiritual wisdom and love, harmoniously and happily governing my thoughts, decisions, and acceptances so that everything I do is done with ease. I lay all weariness aside and accept the life-giving, invigorating, dynamic activity of the Spirit, knowing that it vitalizes every organ of my body. It flows with power and strength and purpose through everything I do, as it leads me gently down the path of life. Today is the day that God has made, and I am glad in it. And when evening comes, the cool shadows of peace will fall across my path, and the quiet of night will enter into my soul, while the beatitude of the Spirit flows through me as a river of life. Now, if you'll join me, take a deep centering breath, and if you feel so moved, close your eyes. And knowing that there is only one life, one power, one creativity, one peace, and that peace is the peace of God. And as we step into this season of nonviolence, know that each and every person here is a part of everything that God is. We are a part of his peace. We are a part of his love. We are a part of his joy. We are a part of the intelligence that moves this universe. And knowing this to be the truth of who each and every one of us are, I speak my word for those who have lost loved ones to man's senseless violence, because there is only God's peace. and we wish for them God's peace. I speak my word for those who seem to be in endless chaos, for God's peace is there for you. All you have to do is reach out and say, Father, give me thy peace. And knowing that Spirit is here for us, that life is here for us, that love is here for us. I speak my word that each and every one of us reaches out and accepts it and says, we want this peace, this love, this joy, this happiness as a part of our lives, because Spirit has offered it to us, and we gladly accept it. And I release this prayer to the law, knowing that Spirit has heard it and it is already done, and that our peace and love and that the joy of life is all ours. And I say life and God are good and very good. And so I let it be in my life today, and together we say, and so it is. Amen and amen. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Jackie. Oh, Jackie will be available for prayer after service as well. So if you'd like spiritual mind treatment, you've just got a sense of her powerful and loving consciousness. And I would also like to add that Jackie is an amazing writer. If you'd like to get a sense of her consciousness and her writing, go look at the inspirational thoughts at ahiah.com and you'll see some of her writing. And so now it gives me great honor to introduce to you our musical inspiration. And Chris Glick was just chatting with us while we were snacking on breakfast back in the back about Butch Dubarri. And he is coming forward to bring us a sense of his loving consciousness. So please join together with me and give a warm Ahiah welcome to Butch Dubarri.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as the pastor said, I am Butch Dubarri. I am a singer, songwriter, producer in all phases of the music business. Chris Glick and I have been songwriters for probably 30 plus years. And when you have a large catalog that we have, and you say, well, you're going to do a song. What's happening? What's going on? What is something you can do that has some meaning? And I notice, and probably all of you do too, the number of famous people who have passed away recently. Betty White, Bob Saget, football coach John Madden, great actor Sidney Poitier, on and on. And for some reason or another, the fact that we've lost so many famous people, I also thought about the fact that you don't hear that much about it when just common people pass away. They don't put that in the paper. They don't put it on MSNBC or CNN or 7 or 2 or 4. And so this song that we are going to do was written quite some time ago, but it's about life and the opposite, death, and common ground. In fact, the name of the song is Little Piece of Ground. Some folks think the rich or high and mighty. Some folks feel the poor are just low down. One thing we all have in common, when it's time to leave this world, all they give you is a little piece of ground. So no matter what you lose or gain or treasure, this old world will just keep spinning round. So learn to live and to enjoy life's simple pleasure. You'll rest easy in that little piece of ground. 'Cause in that little piece of ground, when they finally lay you down, may your soul be heaven bound as you rest in that little piece of ground. So let your love light shine, shine today. Let it shine on everyone around. And make love a part of all you do and say. You'll rest easy in your little piece of ground. 'Cause in that little piece of ground, there'll be no more ups and downs. There'll be no need to compete. No more wins, no more defeat. In that little piece of ground, when they finally lay you down, may your soul be heaven bound as you rest in that little piece of ground. You'll find rest in that little piece of ground.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Butch. Thank you for that wonderfully evocative song. So powerful. Yes, there have been a lot of transition events, and Butch reminded me that just maybe within a week or so, Thich Nhat Hanh also made his transition. And I posted on my Facebook some wonderful words that he left with us about 5 years ago, where he said that, I live. I will always live. And it reminds me that our ancestral line is always just on the other side of life, still teaching. And that's an appropriate introduction, I think, for Mr. Gerald Rivers, our friend, who my experience of his service is that I have become aware that Dr. King lives in me. And when you hear what you're about to hear, pay attention to that reverberation, that echo that's inside of you. Because there's a resonance there, a truth that was passed down from our ancestral line, from our mothers and fathers and their mothers and fathers 1,000 generations back. And Dr. King's voice speaks so loudly to that message. And so, without much further ado, it is a great honor to introduce to you Gerald Rivers. I almost said Reverend Gerald Rivers, because he is so reverent to me. Gerald Rivers, the voice of Dr. King.
First, giving honor to God, who is the source of all my strength, the source of all I am, all I ever was, and all I could ever hope to be. I just want to say good morning to all of you. With giving honor to Reverend Michael and Reverend Scott, it is truly an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to have the opportunity to stand before you. My home church is the a.k.a. International Spiritual Center under the direction of Michael Bernard Beckwith. And this place, the Ahiah Center, holds a truly special place in my heart, in my soul, and in my spiritual journey and consciousness. One, it's much closer to my house. And two, it was about 5 years ago, I think, when I had the opportunity to speak here. And we had been trying to get it together for some time before that, but we kept wanting to do it the day before the holiday when I was traditionally at Agape on that day, and that made it challenging. Ironically, the first time I got to be here, I had just lost my dad, maybe not more than 48 hours before I showed up here. And it's interesting because my dad is not was, but is an interesting character. He was a Navy man, and he was not very emotional. My dad never said, "I'm proud of you," or "I love you," but I understood him, and I believe we had as healthy a relationship as we could have with where he was and where I was. And the day that he passed, I was scheduled to speak before a group of Trump supporters. The irony is, Obama had this program where they were honoring people of service, and at the end of every year, they would have this event and honor people from various communities. And I had been I think it's called Rebuilding Together. I had been the keynote speaker for several years, and Trump had just won the election. And so now the audience was going to be a very different audience than the ones that I had seen in the past. And I felt it my duty and also an honor to be present for those folks and just speak the truth. I was getting ready to go home and get ready for the engagement, and my dad was in the hospital, and I was on that side of town. I had a choice to turn right or turn left, and Spirit said, "Do this right now." So I went to the VA hospital, and the nurse that was there met me at the door and said, "We're so glad you're here." And I was like, "Well, that's interesting. Why?" She was like, "Because your dad is refusing any treatment." And I was like, "Well, what does that mean?" And they said, "That means he wants to pass, and he is in his right mind." Bear in mind, my dad had suffered a car accident when I was in high school, which left him paralyzed for the last 30 years of his life. More of his stubborn irony is that the doctors had decided that he would probably not live more than 3 to 6 months as a result of this accident, which left him quadriplegic. Well, 30 years later, he outlived all of the doctors that offered him that particular prognosis. But I showed up here about a day and a half later, and I just came, and it was my way to heal. It was my way to be of service. But I swear I saw my dad walking in the back of this sanctuary. Now, you got to remember, if you didn't know, that my dad never came out to hear me speak. And he, in his own way, even he would see me on television, and he was in a wheelchair, and he would just leave the room when I came on television. And I just need you to know, it didn't bother me. I understood who he was and how he was, and we had our own way of communicating. But the fact that I saw this man walking who for the previous 30 years had been in a wheelchair. He had been liberated from whatever ailed him, both physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And in that moment, right here, he could just be present and say, look at you, boy. Oh, so this place, it means something to me. Last year during the pandemic and nobody was holding in-person services, and people said, we still want you to do what it is that you do, but we're going to use modern technology and we're going to do it via Zoom. I'm like, okay, I don't really like that, but I understand it's the world that we live in. And they were like, oh, you can just do it at your house. And I said, that's not going to work for me. So I chose several sanctuaries and said, I'll do some here and some there. And this was the first place that I came. And we broadcast to audiences around the world, right here and they were chiming in from China and Canada and Japan and Mexico and all over Europe. And again, it just felt like this was the place I was supposed to be. And so I just say thank you and thank you and thank you. And it's just interesting talking about the people that have transitioned, and that's so in line with what I was already thinking about my dad having transitioned as well. And the number of people now who were in their 80s and 90s who are transitioning, representing folks who were born in the 20s and 30s and 40s, and a mindset that we are leaving behind. Now, we have lost some people who are important to us, some people that we love. We have also let go of some people whose consciousness no longer served us. And we are moving into, as Dr. King would describe it, a new and bright day of freedom, because young people are being born and growing up today in a world unlike anything before. And I think I work with kids a lot. I teach drumming, and they go out and perform a group called the Peace Players. One day we'll bring them over here. And they learn West African hand drumming and traditional rhythms, but their motto is peace, love, and positivity. So we are instilling this in these young people, and we're just using the drums to teach life lessons. But ultimately what's happening is they're teaching me, because they are more loving, more accepting, more open, more willing, and more articulate than any generation that has ever come before. And it's interesting for me because the middle schools now have an LGBTQ club. When I was in school, if somebody fell into any one of those categories, not only were they ostracized and potentially abused, but there was no place for them to feel at home. And as a result, many of my friends, people that I grew up with, were ostracized by their own families. They were shunned. And the church was not much help to them in many cases a generation ago. They were saying there is something wrong with you. But these young people today have embraced them in a way that is almost beyond comprehension, but gives me so much hope, because it's not just that, it's anything that makes people different. It's still okay. I teach at one of the schools here in Altadena, and one of my students was in class with me one year as a boy and was in class the next year as a female. And I was like, but the other kids are like, oh, that's Sarah now. And the level of acceptance and love and kindness and willingness to allow those people to, in the African tradition, practice kujichagulia, which is self-determination. It means to name yourself, to define yourself, rather than having others name you, define you, and speak for you. And I'm just grateful to live in this day and age to see the evolution of consciousness, which really brings me to the topic of living in the beloved community. And of course, that's really easy to tie to Dr. King and to draw on resources of his that explore and expound the idea of what it means to be living in the beloved community. But I just want to explore that just for a moment, because often we talk about it as this kind of nebulous, ambiguous state of being. What is the beloved community? And it's interesting because I went online, like looking it up, like, can we find it somewhere? Is somebody, with all modern technology and Wikipedia, what is the beloved? The first thing that came up was Beloved, which was an electronic musical group from England that was most known for sweet harmony. And I said, that is the beloved community. It is sweet harmony. It is a level of love and acceptance that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, that gives you a chill and a warmth both at the same time, because not it's gonna be all right, but it's all right already, and it's our job to catch up with the all right, because it's already and ever present. It's just waiting for you. We talk about this watershed moment. We're all waiting for a moment where the right percentage of human consciousness has awakened, and then everything changes. And what I'd like to say to audiences, they ask, why do you continue to do this work 30 plus years? You were 17 years old. I'm 56 and I'm still doing it. And I was asked when I was in college, how long do you think you'll be doing this? And I said, as long as people want to hear it. And the last quote in that article said, that could be a long time. I want you to know, I look forward to the day when I'm not doing it, because that means enough people got it. That all of a sudden we hit that watershed moment, that one person that we were waiting on that brought us into that number got it, and we graduated. And what I tell audiences when they hear me speak and ask why I continue to do it, I'm only doing it for that one person. And I will speak before millions for that one person to get it. And then I charge you, let that one person be you. Walk away today changed, influenced, expanded in terms of your awareness. That's how we get to live in the beloved community. The other thing is, it's interesting because I know the reverends get this. There is no new message. There's nothing new under the sun. There is no new message. What King taught, what Gandhi taught, what the scribes and the seers and the avatars taught was be kind and love one another. And all we're doing over and over again is trying to find new ways to say the same thing so that one person gets it. And here's part of it. Forgive everyone. Amen. That means we don't leave anybody out. Forgive everyone. And I'm going to explain to you what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not waiting for them to come to you and say, you know what, I did you wrong and I'm sorry and I'll never do it again. That's not forgiveness. That is a negotiation. That is a business transaction. Forgiveness means giving forward, means you are giving them something you don't think or believe they have earned or deserve. You're projecting into the future what we know at our core to be true, because the truth is the people that you are withholding love or not giving forward to are probably not thinking about you. They have probably gone on to anger and frustrate someone else, Meanwhile, you're holding on to this angst, to this tightness in your physical body, in your body temple. Every time you think about them, what they did, I could never forgive them. So that not forgiving them is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. You are literally coursing toxic chemicals through your physical body by not forgiving them. And I don't care what they did. Everybody in this room has been wronged. Everybody who is watching and under the sound of my voice has been wronged by someone. It was a parent, it was a child, it was a spouse, it was a teacher, it was a minister, it was a politician, it was a business person, it was a neighbor. Everybody. We don't stand alone in that. Everybody has been wronged by someone. And at some point, we've got to begin the healing process for ourselves first. Tim McAfee Lewis used to sing at Agape, and he would sing a song that said, I love myself so much that I can love you so much, that you can love you so much, that you can start loving me. So I'm saying, let me begin today by forgiving them and loving them. Now, that doesn't mean you need to get on the phone and say, you know what, all that stuff you had did, I forgive you for it. That's not what this is about. This is about letting go of something that you have been holding on to that is preventing your own spiritual evolution from taking place. You are literally stunting your own growth. You are emotionally caught in a stage of your life where you were when they wronged you and you haven't let it go. I tell the kids all the time, it's like that song in Frozen, let it go, let it go. It's time to let it go. We don't get to the beloved community before we let it go. It's time to let it go. And it's interesting, I think about exploring this beloved community, and I'm thank you guys for being patient with me. And, you know, it's interesting, I have these talks, and I always think I have something profound to say, and then I just shut up and get out of the way. And then when I sit out there with you and listen, I wind up saying exactly what I need to hear. And if you're hearing it too, it's just a reminder that we have more in common than we do that separates us. It's universal truth. We have to let it go today. One person, let it go. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because if they really knew that what they had done to you had ultimately is going to affect them as well, because we're all connected, they wouldn't have done it. And you have to be the bigger consciousness in this exchange and make room. I grew up in Compton, and it was the hood. And in the hood, there is a philosophy that says you must offer people more credit than you think they're due. And here's why. There are only two possible outcomes. Either one, you were wrong and they deserved more credit than you gave them to begin with, or two, they begin to try and live up to the credit you just offered them. So let it go. Today, one of you, just one, let that one be you. The other thing about this beloved community, because by forgiving them, it leaves us more room and more capacity to love and to be present. Whatever that space that was being occupied by this lack of forgiveness or this withholding of love can now be filled with love. Because the universe abhors a vacuum. So not only do you have to forgive them, but you have to consciously fill that space that you was once being occupied by something that did not serve you or them. Now you've got to fill that space with something that is going to help us get to this beloved community. That means you don't just forgive them, but you love them. And every time you think about them, you love them. And you want for them the same thing that you want for yourself. That's how we do it. And King said we got to do two things primarily. Number one, we must end all war. Period. Full stop. And that also involves the war that we're having in our own country, the war that we're having in our own minds. Because sometimes we are in battle with ourselves, because at our core, we know what's right. We know what's true. We know what's good. And we're having this battle. The analogy is like there's a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder. I don't know if that's necessarily true or the best analogy, but if you get that battle that is being waged, that is taking place, that's how we stop being upset with somebody else. Because we start by loving ourselves and forgiving ourselves. Sometimes we make mistakes and then we're withholding love from ourselves for the mistake that we made, and then we project that onto somebody else. That's not to say that what you did was right. It wasn't. But it also is to say that you too deserve forgiveness. Give yourself something that you haven't earned and then live up to it. Don't just put it out there, but then live up to it. So he wanted to end all war, period, full stop, between countries, between nations, inside of communities. And number two was to end all poverty. There is no reason that we in a conscious community living in an abundant universe should have to see people who don't have enough to eat and a place to sleep and proper clothes to wear. There's more than enough of everything to feed all the hungry people, to house all the houseless people, to clothe all the people who need clothes, for jobs, cars. There's more than enough. There is more than enough to take care of this world over and again. And it's going to take some of us to say enough is enough. And so I tell people all the time, you see people on the street who are homeless and they're standing on the side of the freeway asking for money. I give them money. Sometimes I give them socks because I know they need socks. So I keep socks in my car and just give it to them. I'm not judging them. And I'm not asking, how did you wind up here? Because I imagine if I was there and I was at that point, the last thing I would want to do would have to explain to somebody in a Mercedes how I got there. The other thing we can do for those people is just look at them. So often we want to dart our eyes. We want to pretend that they're not, oh God, here they go again. Sometimes they just need to be seen as human beings, as spiritual beings having a human incarnation that is particularly unique to their situation in this now moment. But they are still children of the Most High. Just look at them. You might see yourself. You might see a relative. And it used to be those are just hobos, or those are just drug addicts, or those are just hippies, or those are just whatever. But now we know some of them wound up there because they couldn't afford their medical bills. Some of them wound up there because, yes, they have a drug addiction or a substance abuse problem, but some of them went to war. And I'm not talking about Vietnam anymore. I'm talking about Iraq and Afghanistan, and their young people in their 20s and 30s who come back because we're not designed to kill one another. I'm sorry, I know I'm going on, but just charge it to my head and not to my heart, because my heart is open for you to hear what I need to hear. So some of them wound up there because their families shunned them. Some of them wound up there because a host of different reasons. So stop with the judgment and just offer them some love and compassion. And in this season for nonviolence, I don't know if anybody put it better than Dr. King, so I'm going to shut up and get out of the way and let you hear the words of the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We must work through the courts, through legislation. This is what we've been talking about, the necessity of registering and the necessity of voting. This is one of the most significant steps that we can take in this hour. But I want to give you a warning signal. I've tried to talk in militant terms for the last few minutes. But in the midst of this militancy, let us always realize that we don't have to hate as we try to straighten this situation out. Let us always realize that we don't have to become bitter as we try to straighten this situation out. Oh, if there's any one thing I would like for you to remember this morning, it is the fact that somebody must have some sense in this world. Somebody must have sense enough to meet hate with love. Somebody must have sense enough to meet physical force with soul force. If we will but try this way, we will be the participants in a great building process. No, we need not hate. We need not use violence. There is another way. A way as old as the insights of Jesus of Nazareth and as modern as the techniques of Mohandas K. Gandhi. There is another way. A way as old as Jesus saying, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Pray for them that despitefully use you. To every potential Peter, put up your sword. History is replete with the bleached bones of nations. History is cluttered with the wreckage of communities that failed to follow this command. And isn't it marvelous to have a method of struggle where it is possible to stand up against an unjust system, fight it with all of your might, never accept it, and yet not stoop to violence and hatred in the process? There is another way. A way as old as Gandhi saying through Thoreau, non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. There is another way. A way as old as Jesus saying, turn the other cheek. And when he said that, he realized that turning the other cheek might bring suffering sometimes. He realized that it might get you scarred up sometimes. He realized that it might get you stabbed sometimes. He realized that it might bring suffering and scars to your body. But he was saying in substance that it is better to go through life with a scarred up body than a scarred up soul. There is another way. If we will but try this way, we will be able to change these conditions, and yet at the same time win the hearts and souls of those who have kept these conditions alive. And I know how frustrated we get, and we have a right to get frustrated, and how angry sometimes you might feel in the moment. But in the midst of this, let us always realize that we don't have to hate. That nonviolence is a way of disarming the opponent, exposing his moral defenses, weakening his morale, and at the same time working on his conscience, and he doesn't know what to do. Now, they know what to do with violence. They could call out the state militia. They could call out the National Guard and kill hundreds and hundreds of innocent people. But they've proved over and over again they don't know how to handle nonviolence. They try to handle it by throwing us in jail. But what happens? We go into the jails of Jackson, Mississippi, and transform them from dungeons of shame to havens of freedom and human dignity. You can't stop it. And the other thing, we've got to get rid of the notion once and for all that there are superior and inferior races. We must make it clear all over this nation and all over the world that a doctrine of white supremacy has no basis in anthropology, has no basis in scientific thinking, and has no basis in morality. And then we've got to continue to delve deeper into the philosophy of nonviolence and this social resistance. But this is not a weak method. It's the strong man who can stand up amid violence being inflicted upon him and not retaliate with violence. It's the strong man who can stand up when they're trying to kill him and not respond because he realizes that there's some things so dear, some things so precious, some things so eternally true that they are worth dying for. And I submit to you that if a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live. And then there are folks who are the victims of some strange illusion. One illusion is the myth of time. They say, well, just wait and don't push things and pray and be patient and time will work these problems out. You've heard that, I'm sure. But these people fail to realize that time is neutral and it can be used positively or negatively. And the truth is, some of the negative forces have made a much more effective use of time than even the forces of goodwill. And I'm sad to say that we may have to repent not only for the blatant vitriolic words of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. I'm talking about time. We must make it clear that the time to do right is now, and that the time is always right to do right. And lastly, there's the myth of educational determinism, as I call it. They say this is an educational problem. It can't be solved by judicial decree. It can't be solved by executive order of the President of the United States. It must be done through education. Now, I think that's right, that education should work in this whole area, but it's not either education or legislation, it's education and legislation. You see, the law can't make a man love me, religion and education must do that. But legislation can keep him from killing me, and I think that's pretty important too. So as I leave this evening, I just want to say, I know it's dark sometimes, that we're out there on the front lines, but I just want you to know that our cause is right, and that we must continue to do the work because human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. Human progress is never inevitable. It comes with the persistent work and the consistent effort of dedicated individuals. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the primitive forces of social stagnation. We must learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools. And this is the way. This is the way that we will create the beloved community. And with this faith, we will go out and adjourn the councils of despair and bring new light into the dark chambers of pessimism. And we will be able to rise from the fatigue of despair to the buoyancy of hope. And this will be a great America. And this will be a greater world. And we will be the participants in making it so. And so as I leave this evening, I say, walk together, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Thank you.
And we just turn within to the secret place of the Most High, giving thanks for the good that we call God and all of its manifestations, knowing that I am what thou art what I am, knowing and knowing that I know without a doubt that this beloved presence incarnated as Dr. King, incarnated as each one of us, to love itself through us, as us, to awaken its love in us as it is in this very moment. How good it is to know and know that we know that even before we were formed in our mother's womb, it knew our name. It knew our nature. And it knew that on this day, we would be called into remembrance. To know that I am what thou art, that thou art what I am, that I am the one that I've been waiting for. And so we just allow this gratitude to well up inside of us, knowing that this gratitude is a healing force, a force of grace and love and forgiveness. And we just become willing to be willing to allow this magnificent grace and love and forgiveness, this magnificent light, to move through each one of us in this very moment. We say, yes, God, here am I. Use me. Open my heart to receive the light, the love, the remembrance of that divine mission that only I can feel. I'm so grateful for this word spoken, grateful for the light and the love moving through each person under the sound of my voice in this very moment. For this is a healing light. This is a loving light. And it goes forth ahead of us, making the crooked places straight, allowing each one of us to become truly human beings, loving each other no matter what, giving each other a pass, saying, yes, it's all right, God has got it. I loose it and let it go. And I allow God's love to be right here and right now. How grateful I am for this word spoken. How grateful I am for this day, this moment, and for this awareness, this shift in consciousness taking place in this very moment. And I just allow and release anything blocking the goodness of God, knowing that my goodness cannot be blocked, cannot be hidden, it cannot be occluded. And I just allow this goodness to pour forth through me into the hearts of this beloved community everywhere. We just take a moment to emulate the master teacher as we lift our eyes heavenward and say, thank you, Mother, Father, God, for we know that even before we have called, you have said yes. I'm grateful, and I release this word, loosing it, letting it go forth, knowing it is already done in the mind of the one, and I let it be done in my mind, even now. And we, in agreement, in one accord, we simply say, and so it is. Amen and amen. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Dr. King. Thank you, family. I know you felt that. I'm feeling it. So grateful to be in the presence of love, to know that message. It resonates inside of me, inside of you. That's why we showed up here today. We could be somewhere else. We could be home eating Rice Krispies or something, you know? And look at us. How grateful I am. And this is our time for conscious contribution, to continue the giving so that we, as the Ahiah Center, as the beloved community, can continue to do the work of Dr. King, of Gandhi, of all the great peacemakers, including the peacemaker that sits in the seat occupied by you. Yes? And there are multiple ways to give. You can give online at ahiah.com/donate. You can also text to give at 616, not 626, but 616-229-2225. Hey, that's like pretty rhyming, huh? Yeah. And your donation will automatically be deposited into the Ahiah account so we can continue to do good. And get this, you can also send a check with a love note. Make sure you put a love note in there because Reverend Scott loves those notes. Send it to 150 North El Molino, Pasadena, California, USA, 91101. And I would invite you to take your offering wherever you are, place it over your heart, and join with me in our prosperity affirmation as we bless this and we multiply the loaves. Please join with me as we affirm, this gift I give is God in action. I send it forth with joy, confidence, and ease. I am blessed by the law of giving and receiving as I now share my gift with life. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And so it is. Amen and amen. And pass the wheelbarrows, please. Yes. As we prepare to receive the abundance. And at this time, I think it's time that we have a little more music in God's party. Yes? I would like to call our beloved Butch Dubarri back forward and to embrace us and uplift us with the gift of song. So come on down, Butch. Let's give Butch some love, shall we? Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. I've done a lot of performing in the 40 years that I've been in the entertainment business. I've been in closing act, I've been in opening act, but it's very difficult to follow Dr. Martin Luther King. I was brought up in a little Baptist church in Illinois where my father was a deacon, my brother was the minister, and my mom was the church clerk. And one of the staples of the small Baptist churches back then, throughout history, was something that we call and response. This song needs a response. All of us, in order to forgive, in order to get through this life, have had some bad days in the past, in the present, and maybe some coming in the future. But I need your help on this song. This is about having a bad day. And I'm going to tell you your lyrics. All you have to say is, other than that. Can you say it a little louder, though? Other than that. So when I point to you, please say, other than that. And you can say it sarcastic. You can say it happily. You can say it bluesy, other than that. Whatever. But I want to hear everybody say, other than that, because the song is called Perfect World. One. Got out of bed, strained my back. The neighbor's dog beat up my cat. I found my car with a tire on a tack. And when I called AAA, they said, wait until it's flat. It's a perfect world. Now listen. On my way to work, I spilled hot coffee in my lap. And then me and the boss, we got into another scrap. He said my overtime check was lost in the mail. And then baby brother called to say he's back in jail. It's a perfect world. The world was perfect once upon a time. Everything in harmony. Everything was fine. And then we came along. Oh, you know we were the best. How else can you explain such a perfect mess? It's a perfect world. On my way home from work, my car overheats. My back's still hurting and I'm dead on my feet. Now the kids are too noisy and the wife won't be sweet. She said, we can't make love because the waterbed leaks. It's a perfect world. Last one. Taxes going up, paycheck going down. Politicians talking about a new rebound. And then another virus pops up somewhere. And my hairline's trying hard to find my hair. It's a perfect world. Come on. It's a perfect world. It's a perfect world. Yeah, hit it, Chris. Perfect.
Amen. Thank you, Butch, for injecting some levity in. Other than that, we know God is everywhere present, no matter what it looks like. Indeed. We want to bring you some announcements to your awareness that will be showing up on the screen. And also, I've got a little cheat sheet here. First announcement, want to make you aware that maybe I should be watching the screen, huh? That might work. There we go. Meet our practitioners. We have 9 loving practitioners, and we have a couple of them here, Chris and Jackie O. There might even be some more hiding in the wings. Yep, Reverend Scott's here. I'm here. See us for prayer afterwards. You're not alone. If you have something you're going through and you just want to hear somebody speak the word on your behalf, grab us and let us do a little prayer with you before you leave. Yes. Next, classes. We have Patricia Roach's class. Yep, is that it? There you go. This thing called you. Coming up soon. This class will be live and in person right here. And it's on Sundays from 12:45 to 2:45. 8-week class beginning Sunday, February the 6th. That's next week. Great way to get a checkup from the neck up and be in the presence of our beloved practitioner emeritus, Patricia Roach, and, just to add a little extra oomph into your life. So that will be beginning next week. Also, on the screen is the Ahiah Board Nominating Committee. Hey, Reverend Scott says we got the nominating committee already. The board has appointed Marsha Bradshaw, Annette Spence, Linda Marquez, Gloria Roberts, Reverend Scott Olson. And if you are interested in having a greater impact on this beloved community, please see one of the nominating committee members or see myself, and we will get you railroaded right into your very own spot. And of course, our youth ministry is growing once again. We have our beloved Lisa Ortiz. She's our youth ministry leader in the house. And her vice president, Connie, is right there with her. Connie is here every week doing what she do. Anything you have to say, Lisa? Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you. And also tomorrow night, before we do the benediction, tomorrow night will be the next installment of the Beloved Community Workshop. It's a wonderful space that we are co-creating so that we can practice forgiveness. We can practice unconditional love of each other. And we can learn, like what are the things that are blocking us from being a beloved community? And we are talking about things like unconscious bias, and how that shows up in our community. We love each other so much that, and perhaps after service, we go to people that we know, unbeknownst to the fact that we have new people in our midst. And it's an opportunity to hold off for a moment and go welcome the new person, to bring them into the beloved community. And that's just one way in which unconscious bias can impact the loving space that we have here. And before we move into our benediction, I want to thank Gerald Rivers one more time just for being that space. Oh my God, and I was just thinking about how fortunate I am to be on earth at this time, to have heard Dr. King in live and in person, and then to hear him, to know that he still lives and that he lives in me. He lives in you, so it only takes one. Just one of us, to be the tipping point, to shift it over. And we've got some projects coming up for the Season for Nonviolence to support the Tiny House Village. We're going to get into action with this thing, because we can do something about the unhoused, the suffering of the unhoused in our neighborhood, the people that are standing by the freeway right now, the people who are food insecure in our community, right? We can do something. And we are a powerful community in consciousness. We are the Ahiah angels. We're small, but we are mighty. Mighty in consciousness. Okay, that's enough rambling out of me. So please join with me as we say our benediction. And we say it with love and joy and enthusiasm and vigor. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called life. Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in all of my affairs. I accept it, I am it, and I share it. Just the way it appears, and just the way it appears now. Thank you, life. And so it is. Amen and amen. And I say, thank you, family. We'll see you out in the courtyard. Let's share the love today. Many blessings. Namaste. And the band played on.